The bears swing and miss as they try to break support and come up short. Is it time to look higher? This is Invest with Jacob. Okay, guys, so in yesterday's video, we talked about the fact that we had a reasonable 5 down and would look for a bounce toward the 45.85 to 45.90 area and then look for the market to push down from there. And that's exactly what we saw. The market pushed up to 45.85 before pushing down and ultimately closing about flat. Now the question is, can the bears follow through? I'll get into that in just 1 second, but first, if you're new here, welcome to the show, guys. My name is Jacob Gabbard, and this is Invest with Jacob, where we use Elliott Wave Theory to break down the SP500 and the NASDAQ. I highly encourage you to hit that subscribe button down below so that you can get our daily S&P updates, our trade setups, and our buy alerts. All right, guys, the bears have a setup. Will they take it? Let's jump into the chart and take a look. Okay, guys, so here we are on the 1-hour futures chart for the S&P 500. And in yesterday's video, I told you we had a pretty reasonable 5 down off of the top. We have this 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They hit the targets on the way down. It does look pretty good. And then I said we should expect a bounce up toward the 45.85 to 45.90 area, the 618 retrace here. They came up and almost hit the 618 on the dot. They were a little bit short, but we got the move higher here. And then they pushed down, bounced again, and now they're trying to push down here after hours. Now, what this looks like is a very bearish setup. And the reason for that is you get a 1-2-1-2 where wave 1 comes down to support and tests support and weakens it. You get a wave 2 back higher here. Then you get a wave 1 of 3 that comes back down towards support to weaken support again. A wave 2 of 3 that bounces less than this wave 2. And then you come down into the pivot, which is 45.52 to the 45.44 area. That is the pivot to the downside. And that 45.4450 is that 45.45 number we've been talking about as they hit it here, and then back here, they hit it several times. So that 45.45 number, 45.44 number, the bottom of the pivot, is extremely important, and that's why Elliott Wave works. The pivot lines up exactly on support, and what you see is wave 1 come down, weaken support, wave 2, wave 1 of 3 come down, weaken support again, wave 2 of 3, then wave 3 of 3, which is the strongest of all the waves, comes down into the pivot at support. It grinds down here, then it breaks support, and then you get that waterfall effect because you have all of that support here, this strong support where they tested it here. They tested it there and couldn't get through, so there's a lot of support here. So when that breaks, all of that support becomes sellers because they got to get out of their positions and flip their positions. You create the waterfall to the downside, and off we go. The next target would be 45.31. I do think they'll push right through that toward 45.19. That would be the more common target. However, given the diagonal that we're coming off of and the 4,500 target for that, I would expect an extension in this move down, and it can be pretty nasty, or it could be not as nasty. It just kind of depends on what the market decides to do. But at 4,500, we'll know what they decide. So I would look for extensions down towards the 4,500 area if they're able to break through. And then at that point, you can look for your first bounce and then a wave 5 down that would break. But given breaking 4,500 is going to lead us more likely down to 44.30 pretty quickly, I could see a pretty good waterfall happening when they break 45, and if they break 4,500. The bears still have to prove it. But if they break 4,500, I could see a pretty big waterfall happening in a pretty direct way. So I do expect a little bit of extension in this move if they break support, given the extensions to the upside that we saw, the lack of support once you break 4,500 coming off of this diagonal. There's a lot of reasons to think that the sellers can accelerate when they break support. So the pivot becomes really important, 44 to 45.52, the 618764. And this is why Elliott Wave is so important, because you have the numbers. Now, if they're able to break the pivot, the next number is 45.31. Once they hit that, the market turns bearish as long as we stay below that 45.52 number. If we stay below that, we can continue to push down in a bearish way. Now, for the bulls, okay, we can have one more high here where you have this as a potential wave 4, and then you have A, B, and then you would have C higher. Now, the issue I have with this is this does not look like a C wave higher. This looks much more corrective overall because you have this bounce that's not 5 waves, then you have this that extends too high, and this pullback. So it's very overlapping and corrective. I don't think that the bulls should extend this directly. If anything, what you would see is a failure at the pivot as a deeper wave 4, and then an ABC up for 5 towards 4620 to 4630 to complete that 5. Now, if they move up there, the wave 2 does basically invalidate because that would take us over the 4607 level. And this much more likely becomes the A wave of that bullish count we talk about in our bigger picture videos back towards all-time highs. So if the bulls are able to hold support and take it higher, we would look for that 4620 to 4630 area overall. And remember, we are dealing in ABCs to the upside because it is a diagonal. Everything is overlapping here. It's a very ugly structure. And when diagonals end, you see rapid selling. So if they're able to break support, we would see rapid selling and then follow through to the downside. If they hold support, we can see one more push higher to 4620, 4630. Over on the NASDAQ. Okay, on the NASDAQ, we are dealing in corrective structures, ABCs, I should say, because we do have one of two issues playing out. It'll either be a bigger diagonal overall on the NASDAQ that plays out over several weeks, months to the downside, or it will be a corrective wave 2 pullback, both of which will be ABC type formations, and that's what we're seeing. You have a pretty clear 3-wave move down here, pretty clear 3-wave move up here in B, and then a C wave down, which looks really impulsive, which is what you would expect from a C wave, and then a pretty clear 3-wave bounce again. So this tells me, this 3-wave bounce so far tells me that it is unlikely the NASDAQ is going to try to come up and make a new high. It does tell me that we're more likely to get the bounce we expected yesterday toward the 15,966 to the 16,000 area. They came up just short of that 16,000 area at 15,966 and then started to push down. Doesn't mean they don't have one more high in them where this can be A, B, C up to that area and then down. But the corrective nature of that move up tells me that we aren't getting an impulsive move here. So we would expect this to be a corrective wave into resistance, hold resistance, and then push down. So overall on the NASDAQ, we would be looking lower, but they do have the potential to take this up a little bit higher, up toward the 1623, even as high as 16,100. That's the region the bears really need to hold. We would look for them to hold that region and then push down from there. And again, this would be an ABC here for A of A, and then you'd get B up to where I'm at now for B of A, and then you'd be looking for the C of A down toward about 15,400, which would give us this bracketed A wave here. We'd look for that move down, a bounce in bigger B, and then C down toward the 15,000 area. Ultimately on the NASDAQ, though, two things can tell the story. If they've made the low that they're going to make, which I don't think they have much lower to go for a wave 2 in general, we would look for an impulsive move to the upside to continue the pattern. If they are going to continue lower, we would look for ABC type patterns. So it gets a little tougher. It's not quite as easy on the NASDAQ as it is on the ES. If the ES gives us a 5-wave structure to the downside, then I would become much more bearish on both charts, as it would point to a much lower outcome in the future. So really the pullback is what we're looking for. One way to eliminate that is for the ES to push over 4607. If it pushes over 4607, then it invalidates that wave 2 scenario and does make it very hard for the market to play out that bigger downside event. So I would say the NASDAQ looking corrective is right on par with what we're seeing on ES. And now it just really depends on the bears being able to follow through to the downside. Guys, if you love what I put out in these videos and you want real-time market updates from me, you need to check out investwithjacob.com. There's a link down in the description. Go ahead and click that link. It'll take you right over to the webpage. Once you're there, check out our membership plans area. We have 2 incredible monthly plans that both come with a 7-day free trial, because I want you to get in there, make sure you love it, become part of my trading team before you ever spend a penny. You can cancel at any time. We also have our Elliott Wave for Beginners online course. This course is helping real traders make real money and finally understand the market in a way that makes sense. The market is irrational and emotional, and it operates on sentiment. People think the news matters, but when good news makes the market go down and bad news makes the market go up, that doesn't make sense. If you want to make sense of the market, Elliott Wave helps you with that by giving you the important numbers to understand in order to make sense of a market that is irrational. This course is 25 videos, and it's in 3 sections where I go over the introduction, your Elliott Wave expectations, your mindset and emotion, the KISS method and why it works, your chart setup and tools, every single tool you need to use and how to use it with Elliott Wave so that you can understand the patterns they're playing out, as well as the Elliott Wave for Beginners area where I go through each of the waves, what they look like when they succeed, what they look like when they're fails, what their patterns are, how to measure them, how to know the targets, all of those different things, as well as the theory of alternation, the corrective depth theory, the pivot, everything you need to know to understand an irrational market. The really cool thing, guys, is if you don't want to pay the $67, I completely understand. You can get this course for free if you become a monthly member. In our first room, the Invest with Jacob room, you get all of my real-time market updates, all of my buy and sell alerts, all of your Elliott Wave questions answered, a midday video where I go over exactly where we are in the charts and what to expect, as well as the Elliott Wave for Beginners online course. We trade the SPY and the QQQ, and we swing in day trade, which means we trade quite often in my room. And if you're looking for futures trading, individual stocks, and advanced training, you might want to check out PT's Throne Room. In there, you get everything you get in the Invest with Jacob room, as well as individual stocks, futures trading, an investment trading strategy that PT just released where you average 5 to 6 ES points per day, looking for about 100 to 150 a month, as well as PT's reduced risk binary method that just crushes the market. He gets you in at a cheap price and gets you big multiples on your money, and it's how he structures his trades that's so unique. Something you really have to see to understand, and that's another reason we give you that 7-day free trial. He also started a challenge account where we put $4,000 into an account trading mini ES futures, showing you how to build a small account into a large retirement or savings account. Guys, we would love to have you in these rooms so we can all make money together. All right, the key takeaways for today. We are looking for bear follow-through. If they are unable to do so, we would look for 45.90 to 95 as our next target higher. Above that, and the bulls can take back control of the market and push this back toward the 46.20 to 30 area. For the bears, they want to break down through 45.44. That is the pivot. If they do that, we should see acceleration in the selling to 45.31 is the next target. But I do believe they'll break through that pretty easily and push down further from there. And at that point, 45.52 becomes the key level for the bears. Over on the NASDAQ, same type of thing. We got our bounce. They can extend this bounce a little bit higher up toward the 1623, even up to the 16100 level. Above that, and the bulls retake control toward 16300. But as long as we're below that, we would look for them to continue to the downside with another ABC pattern to give us A, and then B, and then the bigger C wave down toward the 15,000, 15,200 area. Guys, that is your market update for today. I will talk to you tomorrow.